more disclosures of corporations.
I think they've acknowledged that they could have done it better. The good news, thank God, is there's no evidence of anything that's been illegal, but it's you know, like for example, they've now said that when she wins, he's getting off the board. I hope when she wins, if she wins, he'll get off the board of the foundation. You just have to be. I think if they could go back and do it again, they'd probably make some changes. I mean, it really. I've not been the number one defender of the Clinton Foundation, but it's done too much good. So shifting it to other control of others beyond the Clintons, I think could be I think it's going to be necessary when she becomes
Access and influence.
I do. I don't know how many people have come up to me over my career and said, so and so told me. I said, well, I don't know so and so. But then again,
do you agree with that idea?
Well, I think what she's trying to explain is true in the sense that you can't go out. When I sit down and I meet at the president's request with the head of state, or I'm negotiating up on the Hill on something, trying to avoid reneging on the national debt, I can't leave there and say, well, Senator so-and-so said to me, I know you're right, Joe, my guys are crazy, wherever. You can't do that. So when you ask me what's going on, I said, well, we're working on it, we're getting close, I think we can. But so you can't, the truth is, there's nothing unethical about agreeing that you do not talk about the details of what you're trying to work out until the end. And sometimes, by the way, John, I'll say to somebody who I know wants to come the way that we want them to come and say, look, I'll say, John, tell me what your political constraints are, okay? And if you want to blame me for this, I'll set it up so you can blame me. You got to figure out how to, if you agree on a way to arrive at a good solution, you got to be willing to be able to not reveal every detail of how you got there. I assume that's what she's talking about.
Lesson, which was public servants are obliged to level with everybody, whether or not they'll like what.
Well, I think it's a combination of a couple things. One, I don't think she understood the gravity of setting it up. She thought it was, this was okay to do. And then when this woman has been so battered over the last 30 years. I think then when faced with this is a problem, I think instead of just cutting it and dealing with it immediately, there's always a inclination to overthink it. But I really do believe my grandfather said. I think people reward you being straightforward. And my state of Delaware was it was a red state, not a blue state when I got out there. And I'd say things and people would come up and say, okay, well, at least I know where the kid stands. I still think it's the best policy, but when you have been on the other end of a concerted effort, justified or not justified, to undermine your credibility, I think you probably are in a different place in terms of how your instinct has to respond. No, I actually do think she does, and I think she knows she does, and I think she's also knows that when she's elected, she's going to have to be prepared to be more open as president as to what her feelings are about things. But there's kind of a double standard, John. I get all this credit for being authentic, and and now even Biden gaffes are now Biden tells the truth kind of thing. But I'm a guy. I go out, and if I start talking about my beau and I get filled up, my son who died, they say, well, he's just a good, decent father, honorable man. If she were to do that, you'd have a chorus of she's playing the woman card here. She's crying, a little bit like Michelle. Anytime Michelle Obama said something strong, well, she's an angry black woman. There's a sector of the electorate and I think that has a tendency, at least over 30-some years with Hillary, to cause her to close rather than open.
When people talk about.
But Hillary said herself, she said, look, I'm not that good a candidate. She said, I think she said, I'm not Bill or Barack. And a lot of it has to do with personal style. And I do think that she is more measured and she makes fewer mistakes than I make or most people I know. But I just think it's more, it doesn't go to her integrity or honesty, it goes to her style. Let me back up. Occasionally I'll get an email from a family member, but I don't have my staff send me emails. If they do, they text me something. But I'm sure I have some emails, but the answer may have hacked into anything I have. I don't know.
How do you know it's the Russians who hacked into the DNC or into WikiLeaks? How do you know? I mean,
think about what that says to the rest of the world. Here, the intelligence community of the United States government, the most potent military in the world with the most significant intelligence capability in the world, says flatly, we know it was out of Russia, and we know it was Putin, or we know it was the Russians. And a candidate for president already is fawning over Putin, says, well, how do they know? What does that do to the confidence of all our allies? That here you got the guy of the head of the grand old party, and it is a grand old party, saying, well, you know, 17 American intelligence agencies confirmed this was done, but I don't think they know. I don't think they know. What does that say? It's a little bit like the president going out and saying, you know, they tell me we got a good military, but I don't think we have much capacity. I don't believe our military when they say they can assemble X number of whatever. It's bizarre. Whether he just doesn't know. I know I get criticized for saying this. He just may not be informed enough to know what he's saying. It's just, some of it is so out of the box, John. So far out of the box. It's hard to believe that he could be so devoid of the facts. So it's either deliberate attempt to undermine, or it is totally uninformed. I mean, and you had the head of the intelligence community, the director, Mr. Clapper, come out and say, confirm in front of all of you, this is what we have determined.
Bunch of amateurs. I will put my thought process against these people anytime.
We have been making it clear that we're going to go into Mosul as a coalition for the better part of the last 2 years, because we're putting together the rationale for a coalition to move in and take away the caliphate. That's the same reason why we just announced that the Secretary of Defense said we're going to go to Raqqa, which is the other element of the caliphate. It's to do three things. One, make it clear to our friends and allies and the Arabs who are not part of, which are the vast majority, overwhelming majority, are not part of ISIL, we're not leaving you. Hang on. We're going to come. And two, to give what we've observed is, in some cases we said we're coming, they abandon ship. They don't stay and fight. So there's a lot of reasons for it. But the idea that Donald Trump, and then he said at the debate, he's convinced that the reason they're moving on Mosul now is to make Hillary Clinton look tough. Either he is can you believe somebody'd say that? It's like Eisenhower saying we're going to Normandy. And they say, well, that's done to help the re-election of the President of the United States of America. Come on, man. This guy's not fit to be the commander-in-chief. What I was doing is, he went real low. Look, I used to consider myself a pretty good athlete. What I really resent is the fact that they're trying to pawn off on every high school, college, professional athlete that this is locker room talk. It is not. Didn't happen in a locker room in high school, college I played in. I don't believe it happens. It is sexual assault. And I've spent my whole career trying to deal with changing the culture about how women are treated in America. And the point I was trying to make is this doesn't happen. This does not happen in locker rooms. This is not the way people talk. It's an insult to every athlete. I regret it. Look, here's the deal. I was very explicit. I said, were I in high school? But that I were. That's a long, long time ago. But the truth is, John, that if I were sitting in a locker room and one of my teammates talked that way, and my sister and her girlfriends and my girlfriend were outside, the idea that I would not confront that person, I'm going all over campuses, John, talking about sexual assault on campuses, I asked, it was tens of thousands of young men and women on the virtual town meeting. I said, here's the email address, tell me what you think I should do. You know what they said? Spontaneously, get men involved. So I'm drawing crowds of 2, 3, 4, 5,000 students every campus I go on, and I'm saying, take the pledge. If you see it, speak up. If you can't have time to speak up, if there's no time for help, intervene. Stop it. Stop it. The question. Of all the people who have insurance, 85% don't get their insurance through the insurance plan, this exchange. Of the people, and by the way, for those people, they've had the lowest increase in the cost of health care any time in the last 50 years. So that 25% doesn't apply to 85% of the population. Of those that it does apply to, as you said, the vast majority will get an increased subsidy for the increase in the premium. But there are things we have to do, and the President was clear about it. One is, we should be in a position where we are providing a greater subsidy for young people to get into the marketplace that can't afford to get in, because when they're in, what that does is bring in a whole group of healthy people into the system, instead of what's caused this increase in premiums, which is very sick people signed up and got in. But there's other things we have to do as well as it should, because here's what happens. You still have, no one can be denied health care for pre-existing condition in or out of the system. You still have children being able to stay on their parents' health care till they're age 26. You still have women not being able to be charged more than men. There's a whole range of things that still justify it, but it's not as good as it should be. It would not imperil it, causing it to be not able to function. And one other thing, if 19 state governors just allocated, which they're able to do by the stroke of a pen, say, the federal government is going to pick up all the Medicaid cost here, that would significantly reduce the pressure as